All right, listen up, everyone. Are you a business owner looking to skyrocket your business or someone looking to grow their personal brand? We all know that content is king right now, and whether you're a real estate agent looking to market yourself and your listings, a small business owner wanting to get the word out about your product or service, or trying to grow your personal brand, look no further than Salt Cinema. With a decade of experience in the film and advertising space, we specialize in high-level short-form content and know that we can help grow your business. Let us take the content creation off your plate and position you as the expert in your niche so that you can focus on your business. Follow us on Instagram at salt_cinema, and let's hop on a call and see how we can take your business or brand to the next level. Let's go.
And we are live. Let's go, baby. All right. Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of My Friend Bannon. And today's episode is called My Friend Amanda Morrell, the Lake Powell Ponzi Scheme.
My Friend Bannon's podcast.
This episode is going to be really fun. I'm really excited for this because I have asked at least 5 other people that was involved in this whole experience, this whole story, to be on air with me. And all 5 of those other people said no. For their own reasons, whether they didn't want to get into it or whatever, but that in and of itself goes to show that it's kind of a dramatic thing that happened. So I have Amanda here who is willing, and she actually kind of has a viral TikTok that she did that went big because of this whole thing. And so we're going to jump into it. I myself don't even know the whole story necessarily. I've just heard of a lot of my friends who were involved in the multiple trips who were involved in this. So I'm excited to get to ask you a few things and for you to kind of share your side of things and your experience. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So I'll just kind of turn the time over to you.
Okay, perfect. Let's start. Okay, so day 1, a good friend of mine named Jason hit me up and was like, hey, we're going to go on this Lake Powell trip. It's kind of like small right now, but we're kind of recruiting people to go on this trip. There's going to be a lot of cool people that like I've invited. You should come. And I was like, this is like so last minute. Like he gave us like a week, basically, like a week and a half. And he's like, yeah, but let's just like make it so fun. And so I started calling people. He started calling people. People were reaching out to all of us. Like we were all just kind of collaborating, getting all these people together, right? And I was like, okay, well, what are the logistics? And he's like, this guy named Dalton owns a boat and has a houseboat in Lake Powell already reserved. And so we have that, and then we have another boat that we're renting, and so it's already set up.
Wow, that's ideal. Just
Yes.
Getting invited to all of this perfect setup in Lake Powell.
Yes, and I was like, that's so amazing, because try to go to Lake Powell during Labor Day weekend, which is like the most booming time to go. It's kind of nearly impossible unless you put your name on the list like months in advance, right? And so when he was like, yeah, we got this, he put the name on months in advance. He does trips all the time. I was like, oh, he's a professional. Like he knows what he's doing. And so like this is going to be a great trip.
Cool.
And so I was like set up thinking like, yeah, this is going to be like the best time ever. Hadn't been to Lake Powell like in a good, like year. But still I was like, I need to go.
What a fun time. Exactly. A houseboat, a couple of boats, probably wakeboarding, wake surfing,
cool people,
tubing.
Everything.
For sure. Do you know how many people were invited?
I think there was, if I go look in the group chat, I think it's like 25, 27 maybe.
Okay. And like all from the Vineyard area?
Vineyard, Lehigh, Salt Lake, kind of all over.
Kind of just all over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I knew like the majority of the people. There was a few people like in now, but so we were all getting stoked. I invited a few of my friends. We paid our money over, and I paid directly to Dalton. Even though Jason was collecting some of the money, a lot of the friends paid to Dalton since it's his boat and his like reservation. So we sent the money over and we're like, okay, we're secured. We're ready to go.
And let me preface really quick for listeners who like think that this might be weird, in Utah, like specifically with the singles in Utah, it's like such a normal thing for us to do like weekend trips to St. George
Yes.
or like, you know, cabin trips to
And
Bear
with
Lake.
everyone.
Right. And they can be like 25 people. The first time that I met you was when we did that cabin trip at Brooke's house or
Yes.
Brooke's
Yes, in St.
Airbnb
George.
in St. George. And there was probably 32 people there.
Yes, and I had just met you.
Right. And it's such a normal thing to do. Do it all the time. It's super fun. There's no like weird, risky things going
No.
on.
And there's so many single adults that everyone like somewhat knows of each other or has
Exactly.
seen each other around. So it's never like, oh, you're a completely random person.
Right.
We all kind of hang around the same circles. And so I was honestly surprised I didn't know this Dalton guy. I knew of him because at the time he was living with a former love interest. But I had never met him in real life. But like that love interest I'm still friends with. And so he was like, oh yeah, he's fine. Like, yeah, he has a nice boat, whatever. Like, he's a nice guy. Didn't think at all that anyone would try to screw us over or be sketchy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, like 2 days before the trip, there's like a lot of questions. My friend Haley's texting me about a lot of things. And I guess people are like leaving the group chat. Or they've been leaving the group chat and other people were being re-added. So we were like, why are all these people like dropping out last minute? And so that kind of posed like a yellow flag for me where I was like, that feels weird. And then one of my really good friends dropped out and I messaged her and I was like, hey, why are you not coming? She never messages me back. So I'm like, that's odd. And then I was like, whatever. So Haley continues messaging me and she's like, oh, someone dropped out with their boat. So we're trying to find another person with a boat. And I was like, okay, whatever. The day of the trip, okay, we are all ready. Everyone's meeting at my house. And we're getting ready to go. A few people had left a day before to go to St. George first and then meet people. So there was like maybe 10 people already in St. George. And thanks. And so they were already down there. All my friends are come to my house and we get a text from our friend Jason and he's like, hey, apparently he's like, I've got some bad news and this is the situation.
This is day of.
Like an hour and a half before we're supposed to leave.
Jeez.
So he lays it out for us and he basically says, so Dalton, the guy that was planning it, had a family emergency. And I say family emergency because we know it wasn't a family emergency. And he is not able to come anymore. And we were like...
And this is the guy that set up basically the whole
Set
trip.
everything up. Uh-huh.
With the boat.
Exactly. With the boat, everything. So we're like, so we don't have any house... Like, so we still have the houseboat, right? But we don't have the regular boat. Yeah.
Wakeboard boat.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, I will call and we'll change the name into our name so we can still all go down there. But we need to find 2 people with boats. So he calls Lake Powell and he's like, hey, I have a reservation number. Here's the reservation number, blah, blah, blah. There you go. That's not a valid, number. And he's like, no, it is. It's for Dalton. And this is his houseboat. And they're like, he has been banned from Lake Powell because he could not pay deposits or pay things back or had damaged things in the past.
You're kidding. From former trips.
From former trips. So he is ex-nayed from Lake Powell,
Wow.
from renting a houseboat at least.
Yeah.
And we were like, what? So this whole time that this trip had been planned, that he said he had had this houseboat for 2 months, reserved, whatever, he had lied about everything.
There was no reservation.
There was no reservation.
Yikes.
So he's hanging on to this lie to the day of.
Oh my gosh. And why? Like, what is the purpose of that? I guess you'll get to that.
Yeah, so we were all shook. Like, how did we just get played? So then, obviously, you're so pissed. You're out $400, $450, right? And you're like, what am I supposed to do this weekend now? And so we all message him. And we're like, hey, can you send us our money back? We're getting no responses. And this group chat that we're all in is getting blown up. Like, everyone is livid, is pissed off. What if we don't get our money back? Blah, 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 blah. Like, going off. And I'm, like, stressed, obviously. And he's still not responding to any of us. And we're like, okay. And then I'm trying to like remember exactly what happened. Well, so then we were like, what's our next move? And our friend group was like, we had like 4 or 5 girls. We're like, hey, let's go see if we have any friends in Lake Powell that we can just like bum and stay with and like pay half the money or whatever. So we ended up finding people to go. But I wrote in this group chat with Dalton in this group chat saying, I'm going to make a TikTok about this because you essentially screwed over 27 people day of. And that's not okay. You should be scared. Like as a joke, but also like get our money back.
Right. Well, and it's not that just like this emergency thing happened, like this real emergency thing happened and then it just fell through. That would make sense. And like, you have to feel for the guy because it's a family emergency. Things like that happen, just bad timing. But it's the fact that he literally lied about it for months, did not have a reservation. This dude's blacklisted from Lake Powell. They know him by name because he's done this multiple times to other people.
Yes. And yeah, so I'm like, what we're going to do to like take our money and run, like come up with an emergency and then leave. And also the fact that he didn't even explain it in the group chat. Jason messaged all of us in the group chat saying, this is the situation. Dalton is still in this group chat at this point, right? He says nothing. He doesn't say, hey, this is what happened. I have a family emergency, because we're good people. If he said like my sister got hit in a car accident or something,
right?
I'm so sorry, take the stuff or whatever, we'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Give us the money when like it's convenient for you. We understand. But there was no explanation, nothing from him.
And again, going back to the fact that like it's not just that there's this possible family emergency. You already know at this point that it's a scam.
Oh, that he had lied about everything. Yeah. And so, anyways, me and my friends end up finding another friend who's already Lake Powell. She invites us to meet up with them. So we go and meet up with them. And so on this drive, we make a video about the situation, basically explaining the whole thing, but we did not use his name for a reason. We weren't trying to slander him, and we didn't want to make him look bad. We were just like, this is our experience and this is what we dealt with, and this is like not fair, but we didn't want to call him out by his name. Obviously people who know the situation, or if it's happened to them, they would know, right?
For sure.
Because we're not trying to wreck him.
Right.
So within like a few minutes of posting this video, like we're starting to get views. I'm starting to get like personal messages of, is this about Dalton? Is this about Dalton? Is this about Dalton?
Just random people.
Random people.
So this has happened so many times that random people that happen to see your video on their For You page or like got sent the videos by someone else that their friends that it had happened to as well, they reached out to you. That's crazy to me because, again, it's happened so frequently to so many people from the same exact guy.
And no one was talking about it.
Right.
And I'm like, this is a public service announcement. We should be talking about it.
Yes. No. And that's like a huge reason why I want to do this podcast in the first place, because it's blowing my mind that not only did this happen to you, but this happened to a huge group of my friends the year prior. Same exact thing. And so when I heard that this had happened again, I was like, all right, we're making a podcast episode about this because A, yeah, we need to talk about this. B, this guy cannot keep doing this to people. So maybe this will help get the word out. And like, again, this the reason that this podcast isn't to go on here and slander this guy and say he's this horrible dude. I believe that people can make mistakes and
they can change too.
And change for sure. However, he's not doing it.
No.
Because he's doing it time and time again. This is the second year in a row that this has happened to 25 plus of my friends.
Yes. Yes. And so, yeah, my phone is getting blown up. All the girls in the car, their phones are getting blown up. And then we start to kind of get harassed by people. Amanda, you need to take this down. You're judging him. You're this, you're that. If he commits suicide, it's on you. If he does this, it's on you. Like, and I'm like, I didn't say his name.
Right.
And people that I was a little surprised by, that I've known for years, were calling me out. And I'm like, what? That I'm speaking what happened in my situation?
Right.
And all of us, our situation. So I can't talk about anything that directly relates to me.
Right.
Like, this is not a story I'm telling for someone else. This is not gossip. This is my experience.
Yeah. And
in
again,
my
like
situation.
with the intent of like, we need to talk about this because this keeps happening.
Yes. And people are like, I don't think calling him out. I'm like, I didn't call him out.
Right.
I never said his name. Listen to it again. I'm just giving you a play-by-play of the situation. And so I was getting obviously frustrated because I was like, do I take this down? Like, I also don't want to be that person who's trying to make it more dramatic than it seems. Like, I just wanted it to be like, for people to know so it wasn't becoming a problem for other people in the future, right? And so I think I got like 200 something comments. Then weirdly enough, comments start getting deleted. And then his group of friends start messaging me and being like, that's really messed up of you. That's really messed up of you. And taking no responsibility for their friend, said friend, and coming at me. And I'm like, what? Like, this is insane. So yeah, I got so many messages. And then, yeah, in my TikTok, then people start reaching out and saying, he crashed my boat. He damaged my boat. He sold me golf clubs for $1,300, $1,500. I never got the money back. He worked for my company and made fake names so that he would get more commission. So he's not just a Lake Powell scammer. He is literally being dishonest in every situation he has.
That is crazy.
And my mind is blown. Like, why has no one talked about this? And I'm like, shouldn't we have each other's backs? Like, if this is a problem, right? And so, yeah, my messages, I was so overwhelmed because I was like, within, I don't even know, 2 hours, my phone was like at 0%, like just from the constant FaceTimes, messages, everything.
Jeez.
And that's kind of like a lot to take on because,
for sure.
And it's also, when you are like, I'm just talking about like my experience and people are coming at you, it does make you kind of emotional because you're like, you have no reason to come at me. Like,
sure.
You're being rude to me and I didn't do anything to you.
Right.
And so, yeah, then I start getting messages, from his friends, and they're kind of like, you need to take this down, that you're a bad person. You're not Christ-like. And I'm like,
okay,
here we go. Like, getting lectures. And then I would, like, not respond. They would hit me up again. You need to do this. Like, yeah, if he does anything to himself, like, then that's on you. And I was just like, this is out of control.
Yeah.
Like, out of control. And then I get a message from a news reporter.
Wow.
And she's like, hey, I want to cover this story.
Nice.
Can you give me his information? I was like, fine, might as well. Like, here you go. You can interview him if you want. Because she's like, this is insane to me. Like,
Yeah.
I've been watching it. I've been watching your story blow up. I've been reading all the comments. Like, this is insane. Especially in Utah where you would think everyone knows each other. So you wouldn't think that people would get scammed.
Right.
Because we're all so well connected.
Well, especially on a trip like this, because like we said from the beginning, these trips are super normal. And
Yes.
they're all friends of friends, if not your direct friends.
Yes.
And people that you can trust. Like,
Yes.
this is the first time that I've myself heard of a Utah trip happening like this where, something crazy like this happens.
Well, apparently, so one of my really good friends, Sadie, she last year went to Hawaii and he bailed and she's like forked out like $1,600 on an Airbnb that he never paid her for. So when she found out, she was obviously livid. She was like, this is insane. And she had a lot more of like, I want to like get this figured out like ASAP. She's like, and she was a lot more vocal about it like on Instagram, where I was a little bit more reserved on Instagram because I was already getting blown up so much. But she was very like, this guy honestly needs to go to jail. And then I start getting messages of, we have sent out subpoenas for this guy.
Wow.
We are court ordering him because
Good.
he's stolen $20,000, $15,000, $10,000, or wrecked things that not paid us back, completely ghosted us, like all of these things. So I think in total, when I added it up at the time, it was around $100K of money that he had like taken from other people. Because essentially what he would do every year is he would do this Lake Powell trip or another trip, gather the money to pay the people off that he had screwed last trip, and then said, oh, I can't go on this trip, family emergency or another problem or I have to work. And then be like, I'll just hold on to your money and then we'll push this out till like next month.
Yeah.
So then he pushed out the next month and then never paid those money. And then like it just was a rotating thing. So he was always paying people off, but maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And
you
not
know what this
everyone.
reminds me of? Have you seen the Tinder Swindler?
Yes, the same
This
thing.
is exactly it. Do you know that guy has a course? He teaches a course that people can pay for, and he basically teaches them how to do the same exact scheme. And so this is like, I'm honestly like, maybe this is one of the people that took his course and he's like putting it into practice and stuff and like somewhat doing good at it, but not super good at it because obviously he's getting found out and stuff. But it's crazy because, so I'll talk about one of my friends' experience from the first trip. So same exact thing happened. They were like all excited about this big Lake Powell trip. I think they had like 30 plus people going and she'd been talking about it for weeks. And then day of, yeah, it all exploded. Same exact thing. He was like, something happened. His excuse at that time was something happened with the houseboat. It fell through. We can't go anymore. But like, if anyone still wants to take my boat out, like I'm super willing. We can go and do that. Obviously that didn't end up happening and stuff, but same thing. Everyone was like, okay, so like pay us our money back. And I think they had paid him like $600. And my friend Maddie, she didn't get her money back for like 6 months. She would message him every day. She would call him and he would be like, I'm so sorry, everyone. Like, I'm trying to get all of your money back, but my Venmo is like not working.
Yeah, that's what he'd always say too.
Or he'd be like, Venmo has this weird policy where like you can only Venmo, like do so many transactions per month. So I just have to wait till next month to be able to Venmo a lot of you. But if any of you need your money like right away, I'll send you a check. And then my friend, she was like, okay, fine, send me a check, because she was like, this is BS. Like, he is just scamming. And so she's like, okay, fine, send me a check. Here's the address. And then he'd be like, okay, yeah, like I just sent you it. And then a week would go by and she'd be like, it doesn't take that long to get me my check. Plus you live in Utah, just hand deliver it. Like, or I'll come to you. Yes. And he'd be like, oh, like the mail, like lost it. And he would just have all of these excuses, or it's just like a blatant, obvious lie. And it's like, dude, you've been caught in your lie. You've been caught in your scam. Just own up to it at this point. And he never would. And so it's the same thing where, like you said, he probably scammed someone before that, or multiple people before that, and he was using all of their money, like the current group's money, to pay back all those people finally, and it's 6 months down the road. Sounds like the same thing happened to you. I know that I don't know the specifics, but I know he did it to a family with Lake Powell too. Mm-hmm. So that's probably one of the reasons.
Part of their boat, and never paid them back. Like completely went ghost on them.
Yeah. I know that his partners with the boat that he has like are super fed up with him and things like that. I know he's been involved with like different lawsuits, but I also thought it was interesting because like when you think about it, it's like you paid how much? $450?
Yeah.
And then this other group, they paid $600 each. It's not enough money to make a lawsuit over for just that, because that's how much you would spend in like law fees anyways, like for your lawyers and going through the trouble of having to go to court and all of that. So it's not quite enough money for that to be worth it. And so no one probably does go to that length. However, like it's happened so much, and like all of you kind of teamed up together to be like, no, we're like figuring this out. And that's what I like, because I think the first group, they weren't willing to kind of do that. They were all just like fed up and mad, and they would talk a lot, but there was no real action being made.
And the Hawaii group too. They were probably like, I'm frustrated, but let's just leave it alone.
Right. Because again, it's not enough money to be like, no, we need our thousands of dollars back.
Well, and I don't think that
collectively,
they all knew that each group was being
scammed.
Like scammed. Right. So they're like, this is a one-off. And like, I understand where if someone like screws you over, you can be like, oh, that's so sucky, but it's not worth the trouble of trying to like go after them, or like, let's just let it go. Like, it's just easier to let go. It will bite them back like in the butt later on. Right. And that was kind of like my philosophy too, a little bit, where I honestly didn't want to talk about it again, because it's been like 6 or 7 months since it happened. But I'm also like, it's more so about awareness. And I do think people need to be responsible for the choices that they make. And how are they not going to learn if they aren't held, and aren't responsible?
Right.
And so.
And that's my frustration with people like that too. Like, for instance, the people that reached out to you who were mad about it, and his friends and stuff. If one of my friends did that, I don't care if you're my best friend or just an acquaintance or what, I'd be like, yeah, dude, you scammed these people, like get their money back. I would not be defending that person. I wouldn't stand up for that person. I would see it black and white how it is. And so it's so interesting to me that people were like defending him or mad about it or whatever, because it was just so blatantly obvious. There's so much evidence that it was a scam from the beginning. And I went through the same thing with my episode 1. I don't know if you've listened to it. My episode 1, I got catfished by like a really good friend of mine in college. And I'm like pretty open about it. And I had people reach out to me very aggressively and be like, you need to take it down, or like just super mad about it. Like same thing as you, like, what if she hears this and like harms herself or whatever? And I'm like, honestly, I hope that doesn't happen. However, we're grown ass adults.
Exactly.
Forgive my French, Mom. And like you have to own up to your mistakes. If I made a mistake, which someone could talk about a podcast about me for all I care, and I would own up to it and then move on from it. And that doesn't define me. This doesn't define Dalton.
No.
This doesn't define the girl that did that to me in episode 1.
It will though if he continues to live this lifestyle.
Which at this point he's doing, because he has made no improvements. There's no evidence that he has kind of had this slap in the face wake up call and been like, you know what, I need to grow from this. I need to become a better person. It's almost like he's like addicted to scamming.
No, for reals.
And you see these people do these things like that. And the girl from episode 1, she was addicted to lying, and she just couldn't own up for it.
It's a mental illness. Like
it definitely is.
Need to like fix. And I think too, because this kid, he's not from here. He's from Tennessee. Mm-hmm. His parents have actually bailed him out multiple times. And so I'm like, at what point are you like, enough is enough?
Right.
And like, dude, you need to go get help.
Exactly.
You really need to go to a therapist.
Exactly.
Like, what is your reason behind this? Like, you're a nice guy. I'm sure you can have friends without making boating and like pile your personality. Like you can be just a normal person, and people are going to like you if you're honest with them.
Exactly.
But now the state of Utah, I feel like, or like not even just Utah County, like, yeah, legit, people from all over do not like you and do not trust you. And at what point are you going to have to move out of Utah because you have no friends, because you keep doing this to everyone?
Yeah, he just keeps digging himself in a hole.
And not fixing it.
Right.
And so it gets juicier where, so we ended up finding a place in Lake Powell. We ended up leaving a date early because we were like, this is not really like our vibe, like me and my friends. And we stayed at our friend Rachel's grandmother's house, like for the rest of the weekend, because we're like, we don't want to go back to Vineyard. Like, might as well just, go to St. George and still have a fun time. Yeah. And so he texts me and he's like, I don't know you and I know you don't know me, but I know that you dated so-and-so and I live with him. And he's like, kind of like, what do you have out for me? And why do you have it out for me? And I was like, I don't have it out for you. I just am trying to get answers, and I've never gotten one answer from you. He's like, do you want to talk on the phone? And I was like, yeah, sure. So he called me, and we talked on the phone for an hour and a half, and I recorded that whole video.
Nice.
And just because I was like, I want to know exactly what I said, exactly what he said, so nothing could ever be turned around
and twisted,
just in case this ever does like go to court or gets on the news or anything like that. So I recorded the whole thing, and the whole story was circles on circles. Like, there was no information like actually given. I was like, okay, well then if it was, the reservation was never made, then why did you take our money in the first place? Well, it was though. I'm like, no, we have facts that you are banned from Lake Powell, and yet you still took our money. Well, I gave you your money back, so like, aren't we fine? Yes, you did, but there's people you haven't given your money to. So he's like, well, that's not your issue. And I'm like, I'm still asking you a question. Like, why, if you knew this was canceled 2 months ago or you couldn't make this reservation, why did you even plan this trip? Right. And I said, it makes your story of that, like, a family member is hurt, that is not true. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not going to talk to you about that. I'm like, you don't have to. But I'm just saying, it seems like it's a lie over a lie to, like, you have to catch up with all your lies. And at the end, I was so frustrated with this conversation because I'm like, we're getting nowhere. Mm-hmm. That I said to him, I was like, you know what? If anything, you owe everyone an apology. And so I'm going to add you back into this group chat because he was obviously taken out. Mm-hmm. And I want you to like say sorry and own up to it. It was the weakest response. Like, hey guys, sorry. I love like Powell's, you can tell. Like, I wish I would have never done this to any of you guys, but things happen. Anyways, I'm sorry for like how it went down. Hopefully we can all go on a trip like soon. Like basically like that of like no, like
No,
this is
no real ownership.
no real ownership. And that's when I was like, this is not just like, yeah, a one off. Like this is who he is. And he's like, did you like my apology basically? And I'm like, no, you didn't answer any questions.
Yeah.
So then he was like taken out and everyone was like, what was that apology? It wasn't an apology.
Yeah.
And so then like the next day he calls me and he's like, did you record my last conversation? And I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, what are you going to do with that? You need to delete it. I'm like, why would I need to delete that? It's my property.
Right.
And in the state of Utah, you can actually record conversations if at least one other person knows. And I said, and other people were in the room, so they heard it. He's like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, but maybe we need to go to court because this is a problem. He's like, I just don't understand like what your issue is with me. And I'm like, all of this, like,
Yeah, just going in circles, the same things
yes,
that
I'm
you
like,
had
it's just not
already
getting
told him.
better. Like, and so, and I was like, and I'm like honestly sad for all the people you've scammed. Like, and I hate that I know of all these people now that you've actually done them so dirty. And he tried to convince me, like, and I think he started deleting comments. Like, I don't know if he can, but there was like, weirdly, a lot of my comments started getting deleted off that TikTok. And it was just kind of like, I don't know. It just felt really sketchy. Like everything was like really sketchy. And then, then I like came back to Utah and someone went to go subpoena his house and he had left the day after.
Left by meaning like he moved?
He moved out of that house. And he had texted my friend, hey, with everything that's coming out, I'm just going to move. So when he came home that day, all of his stuff was gone.
Jeez.
Yep.
So
we have not been able to track him down.
So he's like missing in action now.
Yeah, I don't know where he is. I don't know where he lives anymore.
Wow.
But what I think is interesting, so he like unfollowed all of those people off Instagram, everything, like made himself private and like moved, and we were all like, yeah, where's Carmen Sandiego? Basically, like, where did he go? And so, yeah, the subpoenas would get delivered every single day to my friend's house. And he's like, I don't know where he is. He's like, but maybe 4 or 5 came to his house.
Jeez.
I know, insane. And I've seen him at the gym once. He saw me and he walked straight out the minute he saw me. And then the other time, the day of when he said he had a family emergency, on my friend's like fake Instagram account, he was golfing.
Wow.
With everyone. And since then, he has scammed another company and has scammed more people, like another trip, because people are still falling for it.
That is crazy to me. Again, like it blows my mind.
Yes.
I heard about this second trip that happened to you guys because again, last year, literally I think it was November or October, this happened to really close friends of mine. And they were all so pissed. And I would ask her all the time, like, Maddie, have you gotten your money back? Have you gotten your money back? 6 months it took her. And it was because she was the squeaky wheel and she kept on him. And it took her that long to get her money back. And so it's so crazy to me that it continues to happen to like close proximity people. Like it's not just like he's doing this in multiple states or something. These are all people in Utah County, Salt Lake City County. Like every one of these people are connected somehow. We all have mutual friends. I've never met the guy personally, but I know so many of his friends that are friends with me. So it's just crazy. And again, that's why I'm like, let's talk about this. Let's get this out there, not to bash him, but so people don't get scammed and people are aware. And like, yeah, this guy can't keep getting away from these lies that he's putting himself into and these scams that he's making, and just ripping people off. And again, it's not just like these Lake Powell Ponzi schemes. It's like ripping off companies and families and friends of his and stuff. So
I know. I like literally a week ago, one of his really good friends who kind of came at me who like really came at me during the whole situation, right? And was like, we were going to talk to him about this problem. We haven't talked to him, but like, yeah, you need to take that video down. He just got scammed from an Amazon company, like another guy, and took like, I think like 2,500, maybe 5,000 of his money. And I messaged him and I said, this is exactly how I feel about Dalton. Like, you're going off about this guy who scammed you. And yes, you invested more money. But the same thing, you have to remember, the same thing happened to us. And that's why I was frustrated. And that's why I was talking about it. But I would never come at you and say, well, this guy's going to do harm to himself.
Yeah.
And he was like, Amanda, I actually thought about that. And I'm so sorry I came at you. He's like, you were so in the right. I just was trying to have his back because he was a friend of mine. I didn't realize how deep it was.
Yeah.
And it was so, like, if anything, that was the nicest thing to hear, because you do kind of feel like you're like being crazy by talking about something. When people are like being rude to you, you're like, okay, maybe I just need to like go into the radar and not talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
And people on TikTok, Instagram, just on the internet, people are ruthless, legit.
Oh, for sure.
And so he's like, yeah, like I was like, have you talked to Dalton since? And he's like, since the whole situation, I haven't talked to him and I haven't wanted to. I've kind of avoided him. And to be honest, he scammed another company that I just found out about. And he's like, I think he's back in Tennessee. But he's like, literally 4 days ago, I saw that he was boating on his same boat. And it's like he will just keep running away from his problems because he doesn't want to be accountable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
That's annoying. And it's funny too because this is happening to so many people, right? But again, like I said from the beginning, I tried to get 5 different people on this podcast to talk about their perspectives, their side of the story. And those 5 people all said no for their own reasons. I don't know exactly some of the reasons. Some of the people said that they just didn't want to talk about it publicly or whatever. But I think honestly, a lot of people are scared, not only about this situation, but a lot of people are scared to publicly talk about experiences they had, bad experiences they had with people, or things that people did them dirty with, because for whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, it's scary to publicly talk about someone and something bad that they did about you. But again, don't do bad things to people and not expect to end up on a podcast about it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's the moral of the story. You made your bed.
Yeah.
You got to sleep in it.
Exactly.
Does that have to define you for the rest of your life? No, absolutely not. And I so hope that Dalton can change. I so hope that the girl from my story can change. I have another episode that I was going to release. The original episode 2, there was this whole crazy thing that happened with it. Does that have to define the guy if that episode was ever released? No. However, these people, they have to change for that not to define them anymore. And what's done is done. Those are the experiences of the other party.
Yeah.
What happened to me. I'm going to be public about that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, wish her harm. I hope that she overcomes those things and eventually can own up to it, eventually can apologize to me. I hope that Dalton can, the same thing. I hope this guy from the other original episode 2 can realize like that doesn't define him anymore and stuff. However, like, you got to make some serious changes. And what happened to the girl who talks about it on the episode, that's her story. And that is her, her right to talk about it. Yeah. And so I don't know, that's just my biggest thing with podcasts. Is the whole point of this podcast is to talk about people's experiences.
Yeah.
To bring my friends on and have them open up about, crazy things that happen to them, or, stories that happen to them, whether it's like inspiring or like someone doing them dirty and then they grew from that, right? It's not to publicly bash anyone at all. Like,
we're on a journey to become better people, or
exactly.
we should be, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of things that I did that were really stupid, like in my early 20s. And if someone called me out, I'd be like, yeah, that was really stupid of me.
For sure.
Yeah. But like, yeah, sorry. Like, what, like, all we can do is be like, I'm sorry, I messed up. Mm-hmm. Let me show you that I can fix it.
For sure. And again, like, people have their own experiences and stories, and it's their opportunity to share them.
Exactly.
So,
I honestly hope that I would love to see him come on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about his experiences, because if anything, it would just be interesting to hear his thought process.
Yes.
And I'm like, I think if he came on and he admitted to being like, to scamming people and doing them dirty for whatever reason, and was honest and genuine, sincere, people would be like, thank you for at least talking about it. I can forgive you.
For sure.
I can feel like this is over now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think we all root for like the underdog who makes a mistake but comes up on the top. I don't want people to sit in the bottom forever.
Right.
And have everyone hate on them.
Right.
Who wants that?
Right.
I don't want that for myself.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm like, if this guy could just be like, okay, everyone, I screwed up. Here's your money back.
For sure.
I do some credit to his name, right? So after that podcast, like I said, I had multiple people reaching out that hadn't gotten their money back. I've had maybe 6 or 7 people in the last 6-7 months say, hey, he finally paid me this money back. I just wanted to let you know, Amanda, he paid me this money back.
Nice.
So he maybe was on the right path, and maybe it's derailed a little bit, but maybe the path he's like still trying to move up. And that's what I hope.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't think he owes anyone from Lake Powell anymore. He paid everyone back.
Good.
So that is really...
Probably didn't want those Suponas anymore. I'd imagine they would track him down eventually. Like, you can't just run away from
the law.
court orders. Yeah.
Yes, especially when you have like 6 or 7 out.
Yeah.
Because people were sending me their court orders, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
They're like, we'll tack it on another one. I'm like, I'm not going to like file anything against him. I just want my money back.
Right.
And
again, like, you just want, it's like the principle of justice. You just want the person to own up for it and like move on.
Yeah.
So crazy.
So yeah, but for also a little bit, he would message me and be like, hey, has a news reporter reached out to you? Hey, has this one? And I'm like, we're not on the same team, guy.
And like, why would you be honest with her? Like, why
me?
would you tell him anything at all after that?
Like calling me and texting me, and I'm like, why are we still talking?
Right.
You know I don't like you. So this is kind of like weird. Are you trying to like be my best friend now, even though you essentially screwed me and all my friends over?
Right. Well, and I think people like that too are very manipulative, and so they try to find any crack and crease that they can get into to manipulate that person and somehow get what they want out of it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And I think he's probably, again, I've never met him, but from what I've heard, I feel like he's someone that is really charming's not the word for it. But
he is charismatic though.
Charismatic, and like, so you kind of just trust automatically, and you kind of just are like, yeah, this guy's like got it together, whatever. Like, I don't know, this is going to be fun, blah, blah, blah. And like you said earlier, he kind of uses all of those things as his personality. I've heard that all from a lot of people, is that his boat is like his personality. And again, like,
and I think honestly, the fear of that being taken away, like, would probably be like a crisis to him. Like, who am I now?
Yeah.
And so, yes, he's scamming people to pay for this boat so he can keep his persona of being like the fun-loving boat guy. Because if you're from Tennessee and you come to Utah and that's all everyone knows you by, then what do you have when you lose that?
Yeah.
And I could see that being really like make you spiral into like depression, anxiety, you
For
know?
sure. And I feel for that. I don't want him to
I have like
feel
compassion.
No, for sure. And you don't want anyone to feel like that. However, again, we're grown-ass adults.
Yeah.
Like,
we're in our 30s. Like, what are we doing?
Exactly.
Like,
so,
you should have learned these things in your 20s.
For sure. And at this point, if you can't figure it out, if you like are feeling bad for yourself, I don't know. It's just, I can get into all of that or whatever and stuff. And I get mental health issues and all of that. But at the end of the day, it does not give you an excuse to do bad things to people.
Yeah. Own your
and
stuff.
if you do, you just might end up on my friend Bandon's podcast. So
there's stories on stories on stories, I'm sure.
Oh, geez.
Anyways, yeah, that's wild.
That is wild. And I hope that people learn from this, and maybe not just this whole Dalton guy, but like other people that are out there scamming, because it's becoming such a thing. It really is. It's insane. I have so many other people that I want to feature in the future who I'm hoping that would be willing to come onto my podcast who have similar situations, just like way different. Where they've been scammed like thousands of dollars from their boyfriends, or like their ex-boyfriends who ended up being crazy, or, you know, just people that they had trusted, people that they were close to or somewhat close to, business partners. Yeah. And it's just crazy how many people are out there who are just so dishonest and good at it. So I hope that this wakes people up, opens people's eyes, helps people be a little bit more aware about who you might be going on a trip with, or who you might be lending money to, or whatever the case is.
Just get the facts before you send the money to anyone. Get the facts. And I think the biggest issue is that like our friend Jason, who was planning it, Dalton had told him that like another guy was also planning it, who is very, very trustworthy. And so Jason was like, well, if this guy's planning it, then like I can definitely trust Dalton.
Yeah.
Even though I've heard sketchy things about him, if this guy's connected, then it's going to be like a good trip.
Exactly.
The guy was never involved in the first place.
Jeez.
And that's where Dalton got Jason to scam. Like, it really was so meticulously manipulated.
Yeah.
Like, we were all so manipulated.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he knew exactly what to do.
Yeah.
It's not his first rodeo, obviously.
It's not. And it really is crazy because he has no partners in the whole scamming process. He just uses people to be able to do that. Because in the year one, he had this girl who I know super well from Utah State, who's like, she's known in Salt Lake County for being like this crazy planner where like she does these big trips and she has like Excel sheets and she's so organized. Like, you like to go on trips with her because she's so organized and she has these Excel sheets and you know that you don't have to do anything. She's going to take care of it. Like, just pay her the money and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So she was kind of the one that was like his right hand man as far as planning the trip goes and stuff. And she was doing all of that behind the scenes work of like what the food is going to be. And like, this is what we're doing this day and this day and this day or whatever. However, she didn't know anything about the whole scamming thing. And so I felt terrible for her because she was just for months dealing with the repercussions of like, hey, like, when am I going to get my money back? Have you talked to Dalton? Do you know what's happening? Do you know what's happening? And she always jokes about this. If you ask her, she's like, if I had a nickel for any time that someone had like asked me from that trip, when am I getting my money back? I would be able to pay them back myself. Like, it's just, it was crazy. And so I feel bad for these people that end up being caught up in this whole scam with him because they really had no idea.
And their names do get tarnished by association.
For
right?
sure.
And so it's like, okay, well, I don't want to trust this person because they're associated with this person who I know is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's not her case, and I'm sure she's like, it's past now, but I'm sure for a minute, like, people were like, what?
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. And then it makes you wonder, like, did they know? Or, you know, so.
Yes.
Anyways, crazy story, crazy stuff.
Wild times.
I'm so happy that you were able to come on here and talk about it. It's fun getting your perspective because, again, I've had so many people on both of these different trips who had been scammed, and I had just heard like bits and pieces of everything. And so to have it all kind of come together with a formal story like you did in Chronicle Order, that was fun. And I hope that you listeners liked that and enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on and being willing and not being scared. We need more people like Amanda to not be to be willing to just speak their voice in their experiences, and not be scared about it.
No.
If people do you dirty, sorry, like don't do people dirty. You're not going to end up on a podcast. So anyways, we appreciate it. That was fun.
It is fun. It's always fun talking about stuff.
Yeah. Alrighty.